This week on Gettin Deep, we have Gavin Baskerville, a Raw comedy finalist from 1999. Yeah, that's right. A guy who's been doing comedy in Australia for 25 years as a professional and still unknown. I know it sounds really weird, but being a great performer in person doesn't always translate to internet famous nowadays. So I had to get him on and find out all the great information. And Gavin told me quite a lot about his life as a professional comedian for the last 25 years, all the people he's seen rise to fame, the people he thought were going to be great but just dropped off for some reason, and so many more little nuggets about an industry in a place with such a small population but a huge landmass. And I'm still running this competition, so if you don't know about it, I'm going to tell you about it. What I want you to do is, if you're listening to the podcast, take any snippets or any quotes that you think is the dumbest thing I've ever said, the funniest thing I've said, or maybe the wisest thing you think I've said. Make it into a meme. If you need a template, hit me up. I've got a couple I can give to you. And post the meme and tag me in it. Tag my relevant pages, like the funny ones, so people don't just go to my Facebook profile and go, "Oh, this guy's a dad and he's not that funny," or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, post the memes. I'm going to pick the best one at the end of September, October, not August. I thought there was going to be a few. There's been a couple. There hasn't been a heap of entries. So, end of September, end of October, I'm going to pick the best one of each category and pay you $50. Now, let's get on to the podcast. '99, you were a finalist for Raw, right?
Yep.
What was WA like back then for comedy?
It was pretty small, so we really only had the Laugh Resort, which was a weekly Wednesdays. Although there was, and I think it had just been on the tail end. I came in a little bit late. There was a room called Pockets, which sort of I think became the Laugh Resort. I might be wrong on that, yeah, so it was just in that sort of changeover period, I believe. But yeah, I came into the scene. It was very small, and I knew nothing about the comedy scene. I hadn't engaged with it at all.
Yep.
I'd heard the ads for Raw Comedy and thought, no, I want to give this a go. It had been something that had been nagging me since I'd been a kid, sort of going, I'd love to do stand-up, but I never thought I was funny enough. Like all my friends were funny. Like I always had the really funny friends around me, so that always made me laugh. So I never thought that I was, the funny one in the group. So I sort of went in, and I had two mates that said they were going to do it as well. They both chickened out on the night, and I went, I'm ready to go. I'm going to do it. And it went well. So
that was your first gig, was like your Raw?
My first gig was the heat. We had a heat and then a final, and bizarrely I got through both. And the only way I could put that down to was, I think, because I'd been listening to, and watching stand-up and all the professionals. So I thought the standard was sort of going to be, right up here. And I aimed for that, and I obviously didn't hit that, but I hit about there, which was probably still higher than a lot of people were at. So it went better than I thought. And
that's good, bud.
And I was immediately hooked. Yeah, I mean, I often wonder if I'd sucked that first gig, whether I would have kept doing it. I don't know. So, I'm not sure where I was at in my mindset then and what that would have meant, but maybe I would have still enjoyed the buzz enough. But so my third gig was the Raw final in Melbourne in front of 1,500 people up against Arndo and Chris Wainhouse.
Fuck.
Chris won. Like Arn didn't even win; he came second. So I was, but it was pretty quick indoctrination into it. I was like, oh, this is amazing.
You're in there now.
Yeah, and then I came back to Perth, and because there wasn't a lot, there was rooms. So there was Alex Manfred was running a room down in Fremantle as well, and he called me up and said, "Oh, do you reckon you can do 20 minutes?" And I went, "Oh, sure, why not?" And I went away and I wrote 20 minutes, and frustratingly, some of it I still do, which really blows my mind.
Oh, so it's still
some of the stuff is still, and so I don't know. I'm not sure why. I think I remember seeing a poster. When I was growing up, I was a fan of Garfield back then in the 80s when it was cool. And there was this poster of Odie, the dog, and he's sitting in a tree. And the caption was, "It's amazing what one can accomplish when one doesn't know what one can't do."
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. It was because I didn't know that writing 20 minutes was difficult. I just went and wrote 20 minutes. And it went well. And it was like, and so I was able to I was very lucky. There wasn't a lot of comics. So anybody with any sort of, that showed any kind of
Had the
spark
balls.
could get lots of gigs. So I was very lucky that I started when I did. Like I kicked myself, I didn't start earlier. Like it would have been much better if I'd started at, when I was 21 or something. I would have given myself more leeway. But so I was 27 at the point.
Yep.
So, late in some terms. But at the same time, it was a really good time to get into comedy then. And it was also before comedy became the sort of pop music. Like it was still very fringy.
It was still very underground.
Nobody knew what it was. It was very underground. So, and then the next year I was so excited I moved to Melbourne. I did that. I'm right, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And moved to Melbourne, and again, very lucky to land in Melbourne at a time when the Espy was still running, the Prince Patrick Hotel was still running, Star and Garter was still there. That was just before it moved to the Comics Lounge. So I landed in there, and all the Dave Hughes and Dave O'Neills and Rod Quandocks and all those guys were still performing. Matt King, they were all on the scene. They were still at the Espy. So because they hadn't had the radio gigs, what happened a couple of years later, was they all started getting radio and TV. So they'd stopped doing the gigs. So I was lucky to land in there and to be gigging with all my idols and learnt from them, mentored by some of the best in the biz. So again, just lucky. If I'd landed in Melbourne 2 years later, probably wouldn't have had the same opportunity. So it was just good timing. Not good enough to get myself a career, but it's good from a from a creative point of view.
But you've still done comedy for 25 years, and it's your main.
I mean, that's the bizarre thing. Technically I only make money essentially from comedy, but it's not a lot, and I live on a very meagre income. But you can. I mean, that's the thing. There's fine ways. I mean, I live in Tasmania now. I ended up there because it was cheap at the time when I moved down there. It was affordable to live there, and when I was in Perth, it was living in affordable places. So I just scaled my life to whatever my income was. So it wasn't a lot of money. I don't have kids. I don't have pets or anything. So there's a lot of things that I can save money on. But because I'd rather be doing comedy and be broke than
doing something you hate.
Than do something I hate. And I have tried, having day jobs and things. But my day job, my career, was I was a video editor.
Oh yeah.
So, which was great at the time, and I had some really great opportunities. But of course, once everybody got computers and iPhones and stuff, they could as a job, it just went out the window. So so all the work dried up because I was editing news, and they started just getting the journalists to cut their own stories and stuff, and they didn't do a very good job. But that was as professionals, we were like, whatever. But so it actually, so the day job kind of dried up, and I sort of ended up in a point. It's like, well, what else have I got? It's like, well, I guess I'm a comedian. So, but it was good to change that mindset. And I think that's something for, aspiring comedians to, when I got to that point of saying, because I used to just say, I'm a video editor, but I do some stand-up on the side. But when I changed that mindset to, I'm a comedian, and like my passport now, I have to say I'm an entertainer or a performer, that mindset changes the decisions that you make. When you think of yourself as an entertainer or as a performer, then you make decisions that take you in that direction. So if you're teetering on that edge of taking it into a career, just doing something as simple as that can really change your mindset.
It's like I'm all into this.
Yeah.
So it's like if I don't make decisions that are going to win for that, I'm really just fucking myself over.
Yeah. And, people just, talk about it like, manifesting or whatever. I don't think it's that esoteric. I think it's just that it just changes the way you make your decisions. What you prioritise. If you say, I'm a performer, you're going to prioritise performing. So you're going to start shifting in that direction. So.
Yeah. 100%. I agree with that. Like if you don't focus on it, if you're just like, this is a hobby, you treat it as a hobby. And a hobby is something you do for fun. Not something you really go like, I have to make the decisions and make this big.
And there's nothing wrong with doing it as a hobby. And it's probably the most economically sensible way to deal with it. But it's like anything. If it's your passion, that's what you want to do, just go do it. And that's the weird thing. There is opportunities. Like I'm completely unknown, but I've always had work. So there are ways of surviving in this industry. I've recently started describing it to people as being like a session musician. Like, you don't even know who the session musicians are. You don't know their name. They don't have their own albums, but they're never out of work.
Yep.
Because they're just able to slot in and do,
They
you
take
know, I'm on a
everyone's
jazz
spots
album
and
next week. I'm on a rock and roll album next week. I'm doing a band, this, whatever. So it's kind of the same. You know, I'll do a footy club one week and then I'm off doing a cruise ship another week and I'm doing... So it's always... And you can adapt and just do whatever.
Yeah.
It means you've got to be a little bit more flexible. And there's, you know, limitations that come with that. But it's... it means that you've got opportunities. Like being a handyman, I suppose. You can do everything.
Or funny handyman.
Hopefully funny.
Yeah.
On a good day, funny.
One of the funny things I think that you kind of make me think about was I refused to do stand-up for a long time, even though I wanted to, because it's known that comedians are broke.
Yeah.
That was like, I grew up always going like, comedians are broke. Like, if I do this, I'll have no money. And money mattered way more than doing what I wanted.
Yeah.
I was like, I've got to make money. And I kind of hit a point where I went, money sucks.
Yeah.
Like, this is, you can do so much to get it. The government takes all of it. You get all this bullshit and you just go like, fuck, why aren't I just doing what I want to do?
Yeah.
And I think you're like, I can live doing what I want, doing it.
Yeah.
You can survive. Like, it's not that hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's getting harder, but it is. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's, you know, and you know, we're fortunate. We've still got, you know, privileged to some degree. We've probably got a few more safety nets than some people, but it was, money was never a thing. Like, I haven't had to borrow money from anybody. I haven't had to, you know, well, I'm staying with mum and dad at the moment, but I don't normally stay. You know, I haven't had to do anything like that. But it's, you absolutely can thrive on it. And the weird bit is the job takes you places too. So I've had this incredible life. You know, I'm on cruise ships. I'm going to tropical destinations. I've been to Bora Bora. I've been to Japan. I've done all these amazing things. Get to hang out with famous people. Do all these cool things. And people look at my lifestyle and go, you must be breaking. It's like, no, I'm making it like you would be horrified at my income, but it's. You can do it.
Yeah, you've got like
the
all
perks,
the fringe benefits.
The fringe benefits, exactly. The fringe benefits are well and truly outweigh the not having any.
Well, I think
you don't have the top line clothes, but again,
that don't really matter that much.
Doesn't matter. And as a comedian, you know, nobody cares. You don't have to.
Well, it's like worse if you've got nice clothes.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Everyone's like, aren't you meant to be poor?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
I am.
Yeah, if you're a rock star or an actor, Hollywood actor, you need to look the part. But as a comedian, you know, you can. Yeah, the worse you look can sometimes be an advantage. So.
Yeah, because they're like, I believe you now.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
stories are true.
Real. Yeah.
Yeah, I find like from what I've seen of comedy, the more I've researched it now, and you're looking at like people in America and people in different parts of the world, it seems to be like the homeless comedian always becomes the biggest.
Yeah.
It's like this. It's so weird that in America, it's like if you haven't been homeless for a period,
Yeah.
or you didn't get some real lucky break early on, they never get to this like top level. They've all just got this like massive level of I'm doing this no matter what.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think too, you know, the American case is probably different to Australia or England, but they love the rags to riches story too. So it probably plays to them. But yeah, the nature of being in America, it's so much more. There's far fewer safety nets than there are in Australia. Like I'm glad I've never had to go to Centrelink, but at least it's there if you need it. Whereas, you know, in America you wouldn't even have that. So you would absolutely be going to be homeless and I've heard heaps of stories of comedians doing that, but pretty much just becoming itinerant while they go around trying to gig as much as they can to get their break. But that being said, it's also worth remembering that not everybody does break through.
Yeah.
That's been one of the interesting things that I've seen over the years. Like, even being great doesn't guarantee success. Success is really still a lottery. Like, you've got to obviously work hard for it, and there's definitely ways that you can get there, but there's no guarantees. And I've seen, you know, if I'd gone back and had to put money on who was going to become famous and who wasn't, I would have been so wrong, because all the comics that I would have thought were shoe-ins, you know, looked great, sounded great, had really funny guys, really funny women, didn't always make it, and
really?
Other ones, oh yeah, absolutely, it's right place, right time, working with the right people, getting the right opportunity at the right time. The general media market has, you know, trends, so it goes, oh, we want this at the moment, or we want that at the moment, and it's fascinating watching. So that's kind of also kept me sane, because there was times where I went into a bit of a spiral of, especially early on when a lot of my contemporaries were taking off, and Charlie Pickering, people like that I used to work with, and they were all taking off, and I was like, started getting really down about it, and that was the worst. So I recommend to people, don't let the jealousy get on top of you, because because then of course you're not funny when you're in that mindset. It's an absolute head wreck. So I regret doing that, but now I sort of look back on it and, and it sounds sort of stupid to say, much better comics than me have fallen by the wayside, so I don't feel quite so bad now. But if I haven't made it or I haven't had that opportunity, it's not necessarily because you're not good. It's just right place, right time. And like I said, there's and you see it all the time. It's the music industry as well. How many times do you see a busker and you go, oh my God, they're incredible. Why come they're not well known? It's like, again, just not in the right place at the right time. So
is there any specific things you've seen comedians do that just decimate their chances?
Probably just being dicks. Seriously, if you're awful to work with and the bookers don't like you, that is the worst thing you can do. And it doesn't matter how funny you are. If a booker can't be bothered working with you, they're not gonna work with you. And that's what I've watched people burn bridges and then get all shitty because they're not getting gigs. It's like, well,
being a rock star.
Yeah.
When they're not.
and especially now, there's so many comedians. Like, you might have got away with that shit in the 90s because there wasn't enough comics, so you'd probably get a little bit more leeway because they go, oh, we still need you. But I think that mentality carried through a bit, and there was people that were trying to be divas, and it's like, dude, we don't need you. We've got 500 other guys up there ready to go, and comics. There's like 600 comedians in Perth alone, I think. So there was about 20, I think, when I started. So
it's a weird mentality I've never really understood. Is like to be like, I'm better than you, and like what kind of. Just that you see them people that go, I'm better than you, I deserve better, I deserve it, and then they act that way. You're like, there's no way that's going to work, right? Like, what point did you think it would?
Yeah, and I think, it's so simple. People are people, and, people who book gigs are humans, and the audience is humans and stuff, and we humans generally don't like arseholes. It's really that simple. It's like, if you're an arsehole, people aren't going to want to work with you. It's not... Yeah, it
just makes things difficult for everyone.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It's just not worth the trouble. And as a booker, and I used to do that too, if somebody was too much trouble or was a pain in the ass or rude to my staff or whatever, it's like, well, of course I'm not going to prioritise booking them because, and that's it. Be cool, be nice to the staff, and don't be fake to the staff. Just be nice to the staff, because they'll tell the book. That's happened a few times where I've had comics that have been the nicest pie to me, and then later on I've found out that they were horrific to somebody, the bar staff or one of my crew, and it's like, you're out.
Because it's fake.
It is absolutely fake.
Well, and once you see that they're like fake to you, but they're assholes over there, you're like, well, what?
Yep.
You're no good.
Yeah.
Like, and what are you doing elsewhere? Like, I think there's a thing I've learnt. I think I'm kind of lucky that I started comedy later because I learnt about people a lot more beforehand. And I just understand how humans work now.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was younger, I was an idiot.
Yeah, of course.
So I think I would have burnt every bridge possible because I'm just an asshole being pissed off at shit. And now I'm like, oh, people are people.
Yeah.
And people are fucking assholes too.
Yeah.
They will say shit. If they're talking shit about their friend, it's guaranteed they're talking shit about you.
Yeah.
That's just a fact.
Yeah.
So anyone that talks too much, you're like, I'm going to say less around you.
Yeah. And, it is a creative industry. Creative industries are notoriously bitchy. There's always bitching going on. But, the less you can get consumed by that, the better. And call yourself out on it if you find yourself doing it. It is always worth stepping back and trying not to. And again, I've been guilty of it over the years. But, it's not helpful. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help them.
It doesn't help anyone.
Nah.
And you get stuck in that instead of doing the stuff that's funny.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Unless you're going to tease them on stage.
Yeah.
I think that you're like, okay, this is going to be funny, but then still.
You might have But, politics is everywhere. So, again, that's not unique to comedy by any stretch.
No. Well, it's competitive as well, which I find odd, but quite, I don't know, it's a weird thing to think because if you're trying to be really funny, just be funnier.
Yeah.
That's what I think in my head.
Yeah.
But then there is like a competition of like, well, you can't be funnier if you don't do more time, and if you don't, it's like, but how do you get?
Yeah. That's where the competition does kick in, where people are going low on more stage time. But again, the more aggressive you get about that, the less chance you're going to get it. So it's all that all sort of bites itself as well.
Yeah. When I like first got, I was like, fuck, it's so hard to get spots. And I thought, well, I guess I just have to make my own.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, create your own opportunities. And again, over the years, they're the people that have got through and kept moving have created their own opportunities. It's and there's plenty of scope to do that. So if you do it properly and well, then and if you can't do it yourself, you find people to work with to make it happen.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely that's worth doing.
How big of a change has like the internet made from when you started to now?
Oh wow, yeah, huge. The biggest changes I've seen over the years were, I sort of talk about this as a little bit like a joke, but it's kind of true. So when I started, because like I said, it was when comedy was a fringe, it was still underground. Everybody that was doing it were basically people who didn't get enough encouragement from their parents.
Yep.
And then 10 years later, it was full of people who got too much encouragement from their parents.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there was a big shift because until comedy became something which could make you rich, so until Dave Hughes went on TV or, and started becoming millionaires, nobody did comedy for money or for fame because there wasn't any. So your motivation to get into it wasn't driven by any fame. But then once it became a road to stardom, there was a whole wave of people that came in to be famous, right? And then, of course, the internet just amplified that because then suddenly there's like, well, anybody can be famous and anybody can be internet famous. So it became this whole thing. And again, I've talked a lot about this with other people, but fame has become a very different thing to what it was. So there's this weird thing now where you can be famous without anybody even being famous. Like Mr. Beast can be the most famous person in the world without anybody knowing who he is. So this bizarre doesn't make any sense.
Or like that Hock Turger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people can become famous like that. So simple. And the other side of that was, if you go back to the old guys in the 90s, there used to be, if you were on Hey Hey at Saturday or on the Midday Show or something, the listeners probably don't even remember those shows, but if you were on those things, you'd be famous. That would be enough to ride the rest of your career. And people could just live off that one TV appearance and be famous forever. But now you can't. If you're famous, like 1 week,
you're gone the next.
You're gone the next week. So it's a very, very different beast now to get famous, and fame doesn't even have a meaning anymore because also too, everybody's famous now. Like you can, you've got people on reality TV shows, again, that nobody have ever heard of, but they're still considered famous. And so what does it even mean anymore to be famous?
Well, it's like a lot of broke fame.
Yeah.
That's what I think it is now. Like a lot of people are known, but they ain't got any money.
Exactly right. And there's that assumption from the audience that if you're famous, you'll be rich. But there's plenty of Hollywood actors and plenty of it who'll be going, no, we have no money. So it's a very, very different beast now. And the internet has changed it. So we've got this weird scenario now. And I was talking to a young comic in Hobart, Nellie Ryan, she did a reality show and thankfully did well in the reality show, I think called Love Island. But she did well out of it because she could have, that's the problem with doing a reality show. It could go the other way.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it went well for her. She's fantastic as a comic. But she was wondering, what should she do? And I said, well, the beauty of that is, so the way it works now is you get famous and you do whatever you want. Like you don't do the thing you do. You don't go into stand-up and be good at stand-up and get famous because you're good at stand-up anymore. What you do is you get famous and then use that fame to leverage a stand-up career. It's completely back to front to the way it used to work. So everybody's trying to do anything they can.
The other bits and pieces to get it.
To get the fame to rode the career off it. So again, it's very back to front. And for us old guys, that's really head-wrecking because, we were always told, or that was always in our mindset of, well, we just do our thing as good as we can and eventually we'll be noticed and taken. But it doesn't work like that. There's no talent scouts out there anymore. So, festivals and things, there's no agents.
Everyone's looking online.
Yeah, there's no agents out there looking, going to see shows and finding somebody and going, I'm going to make you a star. That's all, again, long gone. Now what they're more likely to do is wait for somebody to become famous and then swoop in and take the 10%. So that's an easier model.
Counterproductive because I think the old method was really just ripping people off. With musicians, that's what it was. Yeah. It was like, we'll get in before they're big. We'll spend a lot of money making them big. Sign them to this bullshit contract.
Yep.
Fuck them over.
Yep.
Take all their stuff. I think because comedians essentially are always like smarter. I think that's why it never really happened.
Yeah.
Because the reason you're funny is because you see the bullshit.
Yeah.
And
Exactly right.
I don't think it ever worked to like catch anyone and they go like, and they read the contract and go like, nah,
Yeah.
you're ripping me off, dude.
Yeah. And you know, comedy isn't, even at its biggest, is still fringe. So even the amount of money that the biggest comedian in the world's making compared to the biggest rock star, it's still a fraction.
It's
and
nothing.
the audiences, you know, even again, the biggest comedians, the audiences they're getting are a fraction of what the biggest band will be getting. So it's still a small thing. So the amount, you know, people would sometimes ask me, do you have an agent? And I was like, what? Look, 10% of nothing's not worth, you know, so what's the point? So there is a bit of that as well. But so yeah, it's a lot of, it's a very, very different landscape now, very different landscape. And, you know, again, a lot of us lament it, but we also go, well, what is it now? How do we adapt to it? And again, it's very hard to change those mindsets and go, well, what do you do? And a lot of speculative stuff has to be done, which may or may not pay off.
Yeah.
And again, for every success story, there's 100 failures. So again, it's a lottery. It always comes down to a lottery. So, you know, it's always easy to look at the winners and go, oh, that's how you do it. And it's like, well, maybe.
Yeah, I suppose there's always that. If you don't consider how the people failed and you only look at the winners, they're not telling you the whole story anyway.
No, exactly.
They're telling you the good parts.
Yeah.
Because the bad parts are not great.
Yeah, yeah. The only comedians I've seen that really sort of set a goal to be famous and do, I mean, other than the YouTube sort of guys, I remember Ronnie Cheng was one guy that he was pretty focused, knew exactly what he wanted to do. So he would, you know, he'd had his law degree. He knew he didn't want to do that. He knew he wanted to do the comedy, but he was one of the most determined people I've seen who really, and again, I don't know exactly the process he did, but he was very set on making sure that he did the right shows, met the right people, you know, did whatever he had to do to take that ladder up. But it's a rare case. I don't think many people can write on a whiteboard and go, well, these are my goals and this is where I'm going to get to, and I'm going to be famous by 2026. You know, like it would be a very hard thing to do. But yeah, Ronnie was very determined, and he's obviously an incredibly intelligent guy, so he knew how to do it as well. And you know, God bless him, he's done so well.
Very well, yeah,
crazy well.
That's I think it's, but I think half of it is writing it down, aiming at it. Yeah. Like a lot of people don't even do that.
Absolutely, yeah, and knowing what you want and setting a goal is absolutely worth doing. And yeah, you can't even be as ambiguous as saying, "Oh, I'm just going to be famous," because that doesn't.
It's not specific enough.
It's not specific enough. Exactly right. And there's no end to that channel too. Again, watching comedians go. Say, take something like Will Anderson. So you know, he became the best comedian in Australia, most popular, and then he went over to the States, and he was quite happy to start again. But then it's like, well, where is he going to go? So if he does make it in America, but then you want a TV show, then you want a movie, then you want to, like, where does it end? There's no actual end to that sort of path. So if you can work out where, you know, a level that you're happy to work at or something you want to aim for, then definitely aim for it. But yeah, like you said, you've got to be really specific about it. If you go, I want my own TV sitcom, or I want, you know, a podcast. All right.
Well, this is probably the easiest one. Maybe a podcast that people listen to.
Yeah. But absolutely, setting a clear goal on where you want to go. And again, because if you've got that goal, it's going to affect the decision making that you make, and what the opportunities that you take, and all that sort of stuff is going to steer you towards that. And again, I don't think it's as esoteric as people like to make out. The analogy I like is if you're in a rowboat and you're trying to sail you row to an island, right? So you start rowing towards.
You
know where the island is, but you start rowing towards the island. But then a storm might come up and blow you off course, so you have to paddle back. But you know, I'm still going to go there, so you keep steering back towards that island. But if you didn't have the island as a goal, you'd just be
you'll land somewhere.
You'll land somewhere, but you'll be rowing. You know, so you need that goal, you need that thing to keep steering towards, and you will be blown off course, but at least you can.
I explain it to my kids all the time.
Yeah,
the exact same thing. I'm like, if you've got a boat, it's going.
Yeah,
there's water, things are moving.
Yeah,
where do you want to go? Because if you don't know, you will get somewhere, and it might not be good. It might be awesome, but fucking no one knows.
Well, that's right. Yeah, you might end up somewhere better, but you might also end up somewhere worse. So
you could just end up at sea.
Yeah.
So what in the last 25 years? What do you think the worst gig you've ever done is? Like, what's the absolute, like, why the fuck am I here?
Look, I'm sure there's plenty. there was one the other night in Melbourne, funnily enough. But I mean, apart from those little crappy open mic nights that you go into and go, how is this even a thing? This is awful. With 20 terrible comedians and all that stuff. Apart from those, there are the corporates are the worst.
Yep.
Yeah. And
What I hear a lot of is just like the corporates just suck.
They're bad because you're being booked by somebody who has got an idea of what the comedian is, and the comedian's not going to be that. Like they watch
The TV show.
They watch a TV show or one of Michael McIntyre or something, and they go, "Oh, everybody's going to be rolling around in the aisles with a comedian." It's like, well, that's not going to happen because those shows go for 2 hours. They've got warm-up acts. They've got audience that want to be there. Everything's going in their favour. But a corporate gig, it's completely the opposite. Everything's wrong. The audience aren't interested in listening to you. They don't want to listen. They want to talk to each other. The room's not set up properly. You're usually performing across a dance floor. Like there's a dance floor between you and the audience. There's usually not proper lighting. You're usually surrounded by band gear because the band's coming on next. And they don't know who you are. And I've said this to clients many times. I said, if you say, "Hey everybody, shut up! We've got Adam Hills is here to talk to you," everybody's going to go, "Oh well, we're going to listen."
Yeah.
But if they go, "Hey everybody, shut up!" and here's somebody you've never heard of to talk to you for 20 minutes, you're on the back foot. So it's suboptimum the whole way through. So it's never going to work, and they're invariably awful. But they pay reasonable money, so everybody goes, "How much my dignity worth?" And so when I moved to Hobart, I thought, this is going to be great because there's there were some comedians, but not many comedians. I thought I can clean up in the corporate scene, but it was terrible because every gig was set up badly. They were, just destined to fail. They were never good gigs. And what ended up happening in a small place like Hobart was it just ended up being bad PR for me. Because for most of the people in Hobart, the only time they saw me was at a corporate gig, dying on my ass in front of in a terrible room that's not listening. So I was like, I can't. This is counterproductive now.
Yeah.
So I'm just
You're bringing your name down.
Yeah, bringing the name down. So it was very hard to get them to come to other shows because it's like, no, come see me. Come and see me at somewhere where it's set up properly. So they were pretty bad. But the worst one I did, just for the sake of the story, was in the middle of Tasmania in a little town called Bothwell, which is renowned as being a pretty redneck sort of town.
I imagine in Tassie it's the least populated parts of Australia as well. So
it will give you... See if you can work out where you would have said no. So it's in the middle of Tasmania. It's about an hour and a half out of Hobart. So it was an hour and a half drive to get there. It was for the Tasmanian Shooters and Fishers Association.
Okay, yep.
Okay, cool. It was. This is how it was sold to me. It's an awards night with dignitaries. The minister will be there.
Of Boswell?
In Bothwell, yeah. And you can and there's a jazz duo playing before you.
Okay.
I'm like going, okay, this doesn't sound
that's
like
odd
what
for shooting and fisheries.
Odd for shooters and fishers, but okay, maybe right, and the money was right, so I went, okay, well, yeah, I guess let's do this thing. So, so I put on my suit because they said, there's jazz playing, it's going to be a classy sort of event, and the only question that I did ask, and you do have to ask a lot of questions, and I should have known, you've really got to ask everything. Never assume anything. You've got to ask, will there be a roof? Will there be wild animals running around? Will there be children? Like you have to ask every question because whatever you don't ask will be there. It'll be wrong. So anyway, the question I did ask, can I just make sure that there's enough light on stage? Because the last gig I did was they had the lights for the band that were coloured and nobody could see me. So I said, just need to make sure that no problem at all. It's fully lit. You'll be fine. Great. So I get in my suit, drive up to Bothwell, walk in to the high school gym.
Okay.
So it's lit. It's a fully lit basketball.
The whole place,
hall. There's trestle tables. Me, the minister, and the jazz duo were the only people in suits.
Yep.
Everybody else was in flannelette. There were dead deer heads on the wall, mounted deer heads on the wall. There was sort of a stage, but sort of not. And then there was a podium with another deer head on the front of the podium. And I thought, this isn't quite what I was expecting. But anyway, the jazz duo were doing their thing in the corner and not being listened to. And I knew one of them, so I went up and said, this is great. He said, yeah, we'll be fine. And okay, I've got to do it. Got to do my job. Got 20 minutes. I've got to make these people laugh. So the intro I'll never forget. I had it recorded, and but I can recite it perfectly. This was the intro, and you've probably had bad intros, but this is how it went. Bit of shush. A bit of shush. Okay. We've got some entertainment now. So I'll leave you with, he pulled a bit of paper out of his pocket, Gavin Baskerville. Dead silence. I walk up in my suit behind, well, actually I ended up playing off the stage because I thought I'm not going to perform from behind a deer head, I'll perform from the stage. So I got up on this stage and they weren't interested. The minister, God bless him, was listening, and I got him to smile a couple of times, and I played to the people I could. But it was back. This is how long ago. It was during the global financial crisis.
So like 2008ish.
Yeah, it must have been around then. Yeah, 2008. And I had a hilarious joke, which was just how you going with the GFC. Well, I don't know what the Geelong Football Club's got to do with it. Hey, you know. And that was met with somebody going, "Oh, the Eagles! No, I believe Geelong, the Eagles!" And then it just started, and then they were heckling. There was kids there. There was everything was wrong. And it's the only time I've really been booed when I was leaving the stage. Yeah, they weren't happy. I didn't make fun of them or anything. I did all my gags, and the people who were listening enjoyed it. But it was just everything was wrong with the setup. But the funny bit about it, and the punchline that I talk about it now, is that before I did it, people are like, "Oh, the Tasmanian shooters, they'll shoot you." But I could tell you halfway through that gig, I was thinking, just put a bullet through my head. Just please, please, I'd give anything for a ring, not right now. So that was absolutely the worst gig, and probably one of the last corporates I did. But again, it's just a classic example. You got to ask all the questions. You can't assume anything. It'll always be bad. If they don't want to listen to you,
yeah, it's hard.
But you have to do your time because you want to get paid. You go, well, I've come all this way. I've got to. I think I got to about 18 minutes.
You're like, I'm out.
I'm out of here.
Is there any nugget from that you think you could take if you're ever to do a corporate again that you're like, this is what I'd do different if I was to do that exact same gig again? Apart from not do it.
Yeah, not do it. Yeah, look, I probably just wouldn't do it because I wasn't the right act for it anyway. I'd probably get somebody who does bawdy songs with a guitar and, something that's going to appeal to a crowd, something that's going to get their attention and make them listen. But, I don't think there's too many things I could do to save it. I mean, I always do that process, though, and go through and go, well, what could I have done differently to make it work? Maybe some crowd work might have worked. But again, it would require them to listen.
Yeah, you go, "Oh, you."
Yeah, and that's the problem. Most of the time, they don't even know there's entertainment, and they certainly don't know how to behave in a comedy room. I mean, people that come to comedy don't know how to behave in a comedy room. So people that have never seen it before are not going to listen. So
plenty of people think that heckling is meant to happen.
Yeah,
they're like, "No, this is cool."
Yeah, absolutely.
I've had a chat to a few people about it. They're like, "I made it funnier," and you're like, "You really didn't. No. You made it funny for yourself."
Yeah.
There might have been some laughs because it was odd, but most people are like, "Shut the fuck up, dude."
Exactly. It is interesting, though, over the years, and when I did workshops and things, I'd always say to people, because that was a question, what do you do about hecklers? And the reality was, in Australia, it's pretty rare to actually get hecklers, and as I said, like most Australians, it's not in their psyche to profess to be better than the person on stage. If they don't like you, they'll get up and go to the toilet or go get a drink or start talking. Yeah. Before they heckle. You really have to suck pretty hard for about 10 minutes before they'll arc up, and then you got to deal with it. But more than likely is what you're talking about, where you've got somebody drunk who thinks they're helping.
Yeah, just adding like a smart ass line in here and there.
And this is an advice for new comics: never ask rhetorical questions to the audience. Hey, has anybody done this, or has anybody
Well, you don't want an answer.
If you don't want an answer, don't ask the question, because that's, especially if it's a drunk room with drunks in it, because if you ask that rhetorical question, they're going to fire back to you. So you just don't give them the opening. So I'm happy to say in 25 years, I think I can remember maybe twice very mild heckling, because I just don't leave room for it. If you don't give them the opportunity, they won't. They generally won't.
That might be what it is, because I've been like, in my head, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm ready for hecklers, and it's just going to give me a reason to tee off on them.
Yeah.
And one of the funniest shit I used to do before I got into comedy was just ripping people to shreds.
Oh, okay.
I can tease you the fuck out of you.
Great.
And just decimate people. I used to do it all the time, and I thought it was fun. I know it was pretty mean, but whatever, it was fun. And I was like, if someone gets me, one person heckles me, they're just giving me an excuse.
Yeah.
Like, I can just tee off on you and just pull you apart, and it's going to be hilarious. And you probably might punch me, but fuck you.
Exactly. Well,
And I just haven't been heckled. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, is this not going to happen?
No, it takes a lot. Like I said, Australians won't. Like, you really got to annoy them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's that not giving it room as well. I think as me, I feel bad having too much space. I have to force myself to leave air to be like,
Yeah.
get that and laugh at it for a second.
And that might be the reason why I don't leave. Don't let pause enough either. It's one thing I'm still working on after all these years. But I think it's come from being afraid of having room for people to chime in.
Yeah, I don't mind that. It's like this. I hate silence.
Yeah. Me too. It always feels horrible.
It feels like I'm doing the wrong thing. It's like, I'm here to be funny. You're not making noise. I'm not making noise. I better start talking.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it can be powerful used well.
Yeah, definitely. Just it's hard to get my head around it.
Yeah, absolutely. And and most rooms that you're working in pubs and stuff, and there's not because it's not real. Like if you stop talking, it's not the room doesn't go silent. If you're in a theatre and you go silent, that's dramatic. But when you go silent in a pub, there's poker machines going off, and people talking and coffee machines and stuff. So it's not an effective silence.
Yeah. Is there any gigs that you've done that you go, this was probably one of the best things I've done, even though it wasn't the best gig? Like it taught you so much, like it was like a really good learning experience.
That's a really good question. I'm sure there would be. Nothing's jumping to mind at the moment, but yeah, I don't know. Actually, I think probably I remember during the comedy festival many years ago. As the nature of festivals are, sometimes you don't get much of an audience. And one night I had two people in the crowd, and I sort of came out and I said, look, we don't have to do this if you don't want to. If you're not comfortable, do it. We'll give you your money back, no problems. And they said, oh, no, we're happy to watch the show. So I had to do an hour show to two people. And it was really interesting. It was a really good process because what it forced me to do was to make everything really conversational. Because to sell the jokes and to sell the script, it had to be, when you're just talking to two people, it has to be so much more convincing and so much sort of more subtle and more real. And that was a really cool process because the way the jokes came out that night were so much more personable and more interesting.
Yeah.
And the beauty was the next night I had a full house, or full, it was probably like 30 people or something. It was the venue comedy festival. But I played it the same way. I played it as if I was playing to two people, and it worked so much better. So it became so much more intimate. So it's a good process to do when you're rehearsing even, or to practice. This is why I often say to comics to try and learn to make eye contact. Yeah. Comics are really afraid of it. And you can see that the eye lines, they're looking at the back of the room. But if you look at somebody, there's a whole bunch of things happen. One, it makes it more intimate, makes the audience feel more connected, but it also forces you to sound real. And it takes especially if your stuff's sounding scripty, you can, by looking at somebody, forces you to make it convincing. And it's a really good process. So that was probably one of the more significant sort of, because it's felt like hard work at the time, but the skills that came out of that were huge.
Well, when I did your workshop last year, there was you said something and I put it straight into play, which was make eye contact on your punchline.
Yeah.
And I did it, and it was changed so much.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And there's one thing that happened that I did. I can't remember the joke, but I think it was like a dick joke. But I made eye contact with this chick in the front row as I said it, and I was like, "I'm not going to address how awkward this is.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep going."
Yeah.
And she was just like,
that's a good caveat. I never thought of adding that caveat. If you're going to deliver your punchline, make sure the punchline's appropriate to the person you do. But yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons that you do that. I mean, the eye contact, obviously, it sells it, but it also, something like that, and the same with moving around and stopping on a punchline. It sounds sort of, hacky, but it actually works because it also sends a signal to the audience that this is the punchline. They're going to pay attention. Yeah. Because I think, and so many shows I'm watching, and especially new audiences, if they haven't been to comedy, a lot of the times they're missing the punchline completely because they're not listening and they're not actually aware of where the punchlines are. So anything you can do to help sort of push without sort of going, and there it is, there's the punchline, waka, waka, waka. Little significant, little minor things like that, like eye contact and standing still, can make a difference to, just remind them, oh yeah, this is, and here it is.
And that little bit of quiet afterwards. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, process that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's just some things I think I've said, I go, fuck, is this too smart? Like, is it just no one gets it? And then there's a 3 second delay and then they laugh. And you're like,
delay,
I just haven't made it as obvious as I need to.
Yeah. Yeah, and finding that balance can be hard. And again, it goes audience to audience because some audiences are right on top of it and will get it straight away, and some take 4 seconds. And knowing how long to wait, and this is the beauty. If you've got a joke that works and it's always worked in the past, and you do it, sometimes I'll wait and I'll go, oh no, they'll get it, and it might take 5 seconds. But sometimes it's like, oh, they're really not getting it. I guess we're moving on. So, that's a. Yeah, that's a fun one, but I think that be careful about also thinking, oh, this is too smart, because and even if you are thinking that, don't say it. I saw a comic actually just recently in Melbourne.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say it on
where
stage.
he said, "Oh, you guys aren't getting this. Is it too smart for you?" And it's like, "Oh, dude, no, it wasn't. It really
You're just
wasn't.
insulting
him.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it wasn't a smart joke.
No, it's a personal thought that I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
And it's happened a lot more since I did some gigs in Bali.
Yeah, right.
Which was to really international audience, like people from everywhere.
Yeah.
And what the Bali comics said is if you've got any big English words, just explain them instead.
Yeah.
And I thought about my bits and I was like, fuck. I do have perspective. And I was like, fuck, is someone in Morocco going to know what perspective means?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I can change that to if you change the way you think instead of change your perspective.
Yeah.
And then I went, fuck, this is really I can really, really figure out how simple I can make stuff at that point.
Oh, and absolutely. And that's a really good point. And I think that's was sort of what I was getting at. Rather than thinking, oh, that was too smart, think I haven't communicated that well enough.
Yeah.
Because again, and I haven't communicated for this audience. So, because it really is a case of going, okay, well, where's this audience at? And sometimes it takes you a little while to work that out. But and I don't like the term dumbing it down, but it's that sort of thing of making it accessible.
Spelling it out.
Making it accessible for everybody if they don't understand. I do, on the cruise ships, sometimes I've got American audiences, and again, little terminology, things we take for granted in Australia, just suddenly they don't understand simple turns of phrase, and so I've really had to go through my jokes word by word and going, oh, that's right, they don't know what lycra is, they have to change that to spandex, and it changes the rhythm of the joke. You're going, it's throwing a different word in there, but if you don't do it, that even if they get it, even if they can contextually get it, that extra second of processing will stop them laughing because they've
thinking more.
Yeah, they're thinking more. So it's it's definitely worth thinking about the the
I had the same with Chasey and Tag. I've been saying Chasey in a joke.
Yeah, right.
And then I mentioned it to all the comics and they're like, what's that? And I was like,
right.
Fuck, okay.
Yeah,
that is just an Australian word.
Yeah,
for tag.
absolutely.
And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but if you say tag, some of the Australians will go, take that second to know it.
Yeah, they're like, what the fuck are you doing, you stupid American? It's like,
or he's not a local. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, I think it's cool to be able to change it just from, just one plane flight. Yeah, cool, I can change that word, I get it. So it makes you have to be on your toes about your own stuff as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And putting yourself in the audience, that's what I try to do and go, okay, what if I was them, what am I hearing? Was this making any sense at all?
Yeah.
But there's no end to it. This is all the stuff that people don't get goes into it.
Well, I think it's good
the writing bit. Yeah, this is great. Yeah,
because a lot of people was you're just automatically funny. Because that's what I first thought when I entered Raw when I was 19.
Yeah,
and I was just like, I didn't get through. I suck. I'm done. But I did get laughs, so I was kind of like, But it's that thing of you're not automatically funny because the guy who won did, and he's not doing comedy anymore. But his whole thing was beer pun that told a story.
Yeah, right.
I remember being like, that's fucking clearly a script.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I was like, even though I'd wrote my jokes, it still was that's way too scripted. How is that funny?
Yeah, it's finding that balance. And when I used to do this workshops, sometimes I'd go to high schools would get us in, and it was really frustrating because they'd always give me the drama kids. And I had to say to them, I said, no, give me the English kids, because it's the writing that we're doing here. It's the drama kids need a script. They or they play games or they be silly, but to do comedy you need to be able to write as well. And so the English kids had more chance of coming up with comedy material than the drama kids were. So
That's a funny thought. I got a D in English in year 11.
yeah, right.
And I was like a drama kid, but not a drama kid.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, I liked drama more,
Yep.
but English, I never connected to what the fuck they were doing in English. I was like,
Yeah,
this
right.
is dumb.
Yeah.
But I've written a book now that was a number 2 bestseller. So.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, right. There you go.
It's the way they taught it in school just did not suck me in.
God, that's frustrating. Yeah. But I should also point out that there are people who are naturally funny and they can, they sell a lot of, a lot of their act is just their natural funny bones, as we call it.
Yeah.
Like they just naturally know how to be instinctively funny, which is a skill. I wish I had that.
Well, I think if you can write it at home and figure it out that people are going to find it funny, it's still instinct.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of shit you can write. You're like, I think it's funny, and then it's not.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, again, I was surprised when I started. I remember a couple of comics said to me, they said, "Oh, how come every time you do a new bit, it always works?" And I said, well, because I won't do it unless I'm like 99% sure it's going to be funny. Like I'd be humiliated if I did something that at that point, certainly I wasn't willing to take a risk.
Yeah, it was like no risk taking.
Yeah, absolutely no risk. It had to be absolutely sure it was going to be funny. And, I either instinctively knew or I'd have run it by somebody to get some gauge on it, but I just couldn't. I couldn't work out why people were getting up on stage and telling something they didn't know if it was going to work. So I was like, are you insane?
I find it like there's these weird things that I find hilarious, but they're just facts.
Yeah, right.
Like I look at it and I tell it to people, and I'm like, oh, that's just a fact.
Yeah.
Like that to me, it's a dumb fact, but because it's like no one's looking at it the way I'm seeing it, I'm like, I've got to figure out how you find this funny.
Yeah,
'Cause in my head, me saying this is like, this is so dumb. This is why aren't we finding this hilarious? The one recently was like a midlife crisis. I was thinking about it, and I was like, who the fuck made that term?
Yeah.
Like, it's only the kids that are inheriting the money that are calling their dad having a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
They're the only ones that are going, well, he's having a midlife crisis. He's having a fucking party.
Yeah.
He's just bought a nice car. He's going on holidays.
Yeah, nice.
He's trying to root all these like, young girls. Like, if you think that's a crisis, send me to your hell, please. Because, fuck, that sounds good.
That's a nice, yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that, and I said it to someone. They're like, yeah. It's like, can't. This is hilarious to me. What are you talking about?
Well, I think, that's a good example of the context, though, if people have experienced or not experienced it. So, people who have had a midlife crisis or had friends at midlife crisis, they're going to see that in a different angle. And
Yeah.
men are probably going to relate to that differently to the kids. Like you said, it's going to be quite a different thing. So, yeah, the context of a joke, that makes a big difference too. And the audience, it's funny, I was just, Life of Brian was on TV the other night. And I hadn't watched it for quite a while. It's a very, very funny movie, very clever.
I've got it. Always look on the bright side of life tattooed across my chest.
There you go. It really is a clever and one of the funniest films if you look at it for gags per minute and very, very funny. But the scene in there where he's writing the Latin on the wall and the centurion comes in and gives him a lesson. No, that's not how you conjugate the verb, all that stuff. That is a parody of the old English school masters because that's the way they used to teach. And my dad thought that was hilarious because he's had teachers that were the same and they'd literally whack you and say, that's not how you conjugate a verb, like this is motion towards, is it not? That kind of thing. But of course, kids today wouldn't understand the context of that joke. So they might still laugh at it because it's very well performed, but the subtext of what that's actually parodying is completely gone. So there's... Again, it's really, that's one of the things I sort of love and sort of hate about comedy is that there's so much context to things that can be understood or misunderstood and with different audiences. So again, you get an audience with old people and young people and it's like the old people will get that, but the young people aren't going to get that. And conversely, there's stuff that young kids will get. So when your job is to make everybody laugh, it's like, how do you find the common ground?
How do you do that universal?
That's really hard. And the common ground between demographics has changed. It's so disparate now. Like there's so few cultural touchstones that everybody knows. Again, you're going back so the good old days, when there was only 5 TV channels. Like, if there was a number one rating show, most people in Australia would have seen
Everyone
it.
knows,
so
yeah.
you could make reference to it, and Hey Hey It's Saturday or whatever. But now, or the Sullivans back in the day, those sort of things. There was a show called Country Practice. I don't know if
Yep, I
you
know.
remember it. There was a character in that. This is in the mid-80s, called Molly. And when Molly died, and it was like everybody in Australia remembers when Molly died. Anybody who was alive at the time remembers when Molly died. And that was a cultural touchstone. But there's nothing like that anymore, because there's no
too many
show.
shows.
There's too many shows, too many movies. Nothing's going to hit at the same level of cultural understanding, which is sad on some levels, but it's worth remembering, because it does make it much harder for comedians to make reference to things.
Yeah, definitely. I seen a guy in Bali who was trying to tell this massive joke about DC, like DC Comics, Justice League. And I was like, in my head, I was like, fuck, I would have abandoned. Like, I hit like 30 seconds, a minute in, and you could just see that the kind of people were just like not getting it.
Yeah, wow.
And I was like, fuck. Like, and it was good, but I was like, fuck, these people are just, they're not there.
Yeah, if they don't know the references.
And you're like, it's so big, but
Yeah.
you're like, it's also not.
Yeah, it actually occurred to me, this going back, it'd be at least 15, 16. When did Avatar come out? That was a long time
Fuck,
ago.
that was ages ago.
Yeah,
now.
yeah. So it was some young guys were doing, a guy named Ned Townsend, who's still doing comedy now. He's great. But he was only like 14 at the time. And they did this whole sketch about Avatar. And at that time, Avatar was the movie. Like, it was the biggest blockbuster. It was, the biggest... But even then, only half the audience knew the references.
Yeah.
So that's when I realised, this is years ago, but I suddenly went, oh, hang on,
The turning point.
yeah, this doesn't work anymore. Like,
That was even before Netflix.
yeah, it was a very long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So even then it was a shift, and now it's even more, disparate. So
Oh, it's impossible to make a reference to a show. I think, fuck. I've tried it twice maybe, and I was like, fuck this. There's a bit that I mentioned, the Brady Bunch,
Yep.
and it never gets it.
oh, that's so frustrating, isn't
And
it?
I'm like, fuck, it's the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
How do you not know what the Brady Bunch is? It's this one dumb family. It makes sense. No.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. So, and that's also why topical jokes are hard too, because the news is so quick now. The news cycle's so quick that most people won't even know about the news story. So the only way you can do a joke about a news story is to explain the news story and then do a joke about it. And again, going back, I don't know if you remember a show called Good News Week.
Yep.
Yeah,
I remember Good News
Dermot
Week.
and stuff. So, and that was topical jokes. So they had an original series that went in, I think it was in the 90s and early 2000s, and then it disappeared for a while, and then it came back again. And when it came back, it didn't work as well, and it was because
Yeah, it just died instantly.
because people didn't know, weren't watching the news anymore. So the problem with that is if you're telling people what the news story is and then making a joke about it.
It's too long.
It's too long, but it's also people don't have any emotional investment in that story. If they've experienced the story beforehand and they've had time to process it, then they've got feelings about it that you can make fun of. But if they've only just hearing about this, it becomes so arbitrary that making a joke about it becomes irrelevant. So it just doesn't have any power anymore because people haven't had...
Yeah, it's not in there.
It's completely arbitrary. You can just make up anything then. So
I suppose those jokes are really only good for the internet because they go to the people that are already looking at that.
that's what happened. Twitter just changed the game completely. It's just, and jokes, news jokes were done. I was doing a spot on radio in Hobart a few years back, again, probably 10 years ago now, and it was a weekly roundup of news jokes. And it was really hard because of that, because by the time 3 days later, all the jokes have been done.
Yeah.
So you're trying to come up with a new angle on something. It's like, man, this is...
It's already been brutalised.
Yeah. And again, Good News Week and even some of those other shows that were panel shows on the time, I remember talking to the writers and they were saying the same thing. By the time they get to Friday, trying to come up with a joke that hasn't been done, if they're recording the show on a Thursday and it's going to air on a Friday, even in that 24 hours, it could have
Just got
been done.
too
So
big.
it's really, really tricky. So those sort of things have changed the face, so doing jokes about the news was a pretty standard thing for stand-ups to do. It's much rarer now because...
It's got to become all you.
Yeah. And even when comics do it, I mean, I just even saw that happening this week, The Olympics is on, people are doing jokes and, 2 or 3 comics are doing the same jokes because there's only 2 or 3 jokes to go to from it, so...
Yeah, I try and avoid, news.
Yeah.
Because I hate it anyway. And then I kind of go, fuck it. I could do it, but it's boring.
Yeah.
It just doesn't really, suck me in. And then I go, and it's very short term.
Yeah.
It seems very short term. Like you use it and then you're like, oh, I'll get rid of it.
Yeah. The only upside of writing a joke about the news is also very cyclical. So, making fun of one politician one day, that chances are that joke's going to become relevant to somebody else later on. So, that's the only upside of that. But it's it's pretty crazy trying to make it work now. And like I said, people don't care, people don't know. Without that, then what hook is there?
Yeah, because I find a thing that I've looked at a lot is there's a lot of comedians, their first kind of special comes out that is all them. Like it's everything to do with them, so you get to know them. You watch that first special, then everything afterwards is still additions to who they are.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how they build this massive career.
Yep.
Which I thought was really interesting. I was like, fuck, you literally, this is the get to know you special.
Yeah. But that's also, again, another big shift. If we talk about what's happened in the last 25 years, comedy is very much cult of personality now. It's very much about who the comedian is for a bunch of reasons. Partly, comedians write about themselves and their experience because it's the only way to have original material.
Yeah.
Because if you're, I'm a joke writer, but anybody could pinch my jokes and use it. But if I've got a story about myself, it's much harder for somebody to take that. So that's part of it. But secondly, this weird sort of thing, again, through the fame mechanism, audiences and fans they're like virtual friendships. So, in the old days, it was the royals. People used to idolise the royals and feel they wanted to know everything that's happening in the royals' life. That's gone, but now they want that in celebrities and they want it in the comedians. And so, when they become a fan of something, they're now emotionally invested in that person and they want to know everything that's happening in their life and they want to know. So it's a very different thing, and you've got to be completely open, and all the comedians that are doing the best are the ones that are so honest about their life, tell you everything that's going. Whereas I've never been comfortable with that because it's like, well, I want my private life, to be separate from my public life. So I've always sort of battled with that, but to my detriment because people would engage more if they
know more,
got to know about
Yeah, it's a weird. I think I was like that before doing comedy. I always wanted to kind of be so secretive. And then I just got used to the fact that we have phones and everything is collected. Like all the data is collected. And I'm like, well, if the government has all my information.
All these secrets. Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Why don't fucking everybody else have it? Like, what's the difference?
If the government's got my nudes, why not everybody?
Like at that point, I was like, fucking who cares?
Yeah.
That's
an interesting way to look at it. Depressing way to look at it, but an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, look, it's pissed me off a lot.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to adapt to smartphone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I didn't get one till probably 2010, 11, 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, no, I'm sticking with my little brick.
Yeah, good.
It's like, and then eventually I was like, fuck, I need it.
Yeah.
I want to be able to play games.
Yeah. I think I was the same. It was a long time before I let go of the old because the phone I had like internet on it at the time. I could get the news and find out stuff that I wanted to.
Oh, and I was like,
and I was like, that's enough. I don't need anything else.
I was real bricky. I still had like no color screen.
Yeah, the first phone I had that had internet on it was a Kia Sarah thing, and it was when the CDMA network came in. That's how long ago that was. But it was like, I thought it was amazing. I've got the internet. What do you want me to do? I can Google things. And I was like, this is amazing. But yeah, that was before apps and things. But yeah, but I know what you mean. Like it took me a long time to let go too. I'm like, why do you want to do that? This is crazy.
Yeah, I just assumed I was like smartphones. I was already worried about like. I didn't like the fact that my SMSs were going. Like I was like, I don't want any GPS on my phone or that. Stay away from me.
Yeah.
And I knew as soon as you got that thing, just give up.
Yeah,
you've got it. Everything's gone.
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Which is, I sort of think it's funny too because like you remember the old stories, and it's probably myths, but where they said the American Indians gave away all the land for shiny trinkets and mirrors, and it's like that's exactly what we did. We gave away all our privacy for a mirror. That's all the iPhone is a mirror. At the end of the day, it
collects all your shit.
Yeah. It's just a mirror. You can actually literally do selfies and stuff with it. So it's just exactly the same thing. But it's like instead of giving away our land, we gave away our freedom. All our info.
I remember there was one day I found that Google tracks everywhere you have and they keep it and you can actually find all your own map stuff. And I found it and went, no. What? And then I was looking back and I was like, it literally shows you everywhere you've been every day, every stop, how long you were there for. And I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I'm going to use this now and just track myself. Guess this is happening.
Yeah. I think the other thing I tried to console myself with is like, well, now they've got billions of people's data. It's like, so I'm still anonymous. Because, you know...
Because you don't matter.
They're going to have to... Yeah. I'd have to... Yeah, I don't think they're going to care enough about me to go looking for this stuff, but which isn't a great solution, but it's...
It's kind of where I had to get my head.
Yeah, it's the only way to go.
Oh, they don't actually care.
Yeah.
It's just a massive data set. And I was like, okay.
It's the one advantage of not being a narcissist. You can go, they don't give a shit.
They don't care
I'm not
about
important.
There's always like that. I know people that get hell paranoid. They're like, fuck, imagine if they just like videotaped you while you're like watching porn or something. And I was like, oh, well, fuck it.
Well, apparently there's guys that I get emails from every third week that say that.
I was always wondering if someone's doing it. Like, do it, bro. You post that. That means I can start an OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Too late.
Yeah, go for it, dude. So that's impressive. I don't even have a camera on my laptop, but yeah, good on you. Go you.
Like, I used to have the camera stickers on the laptop and everything.
Yeah.
I was paranoid. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Fucking too late now.
Good luck if somebody wants to say that. Good luck to them.
Yeah, I was like, who are you going to piss off with this?
Yeah.
They're going to be annoyed.
Yeah, that's right.
It's better if you put it on their phone and say, give us $20 to take it off.
Yeah.
Why have you fucked my phone with this shit?
They'd be probably by these days they'd be better off sort of saying we're going to tell everybody that you haven't had a wank in.
We've been watching.
We've been watching,
weird
and you haven't had sex or a wank in a month. Don't tell anybody. How much money do you want?
We're going to tell everyone about the things you haven't done. You're like, hey. That's actually pretty funny. Like if you're doing a podcast and they're like, you said this in the podcast, but we got proof you didn't.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, okay. Hey, you really got
Calling
me.
out my bullshit. All right. How much do you want?
I think it's a bonus of like comedy. It's like, you're like, it doesn't matter what I say. It could be a lie.
Yeah.
And it's just funny if it is.
Yeah. It's up
Could
to
be
you
true.
to work out.
Yeah.
What's not.
That's the thing I'll hide behind. So we hit like a bit over an hour. So I reckon we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, cool, man. Whatever.
Thanks for coming on. Anything you want to plug?
No, nothing that I could. Well, I'm doing. Well, when's this going out?
Thursday. Thursday morning.
Okay, I remember what I'm doing next week. There'll be gigs.
There'll be check the website.
Just go see any live comedy. Go and see all the rooms. That's the plug. Not for me. Go and go and be there because we need an audience. If there's no audience, there's no comedy. We're completely nothing without an audience. So be out. Go be an audience.
Thank you. Go spend $10, $20, $30. Come see some shows.
Yep. Good, bad, and ugly. Just do it. Just take it all in.
We need you. All right, catch ya.
Pleasure.